Welcome everyone to the final Conchas y Café creative writing lesson of the spring 2023 series. So we made it, everybody. We're here. We're right at the tail end of the spring 2023 series. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing all of the writing that gets submitted before the deadline of June 27th. And as like a quick little reminder to those of you enrolled in the program, you have from now until June 27th to upload final assignments. So like I was saying earlier, just go to distillarts.org/Conchas y Café zine. You'll find the link for uploading your work to Submittable. And you are able to do that all the way up until basically 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on June 27th. Yeah, chop chop, as Abraham says. Chop chop. To finally sum up, I guess, would be the best word for it. Our current series on language, I actually have a lesson for us here that is kind of in some ways a revisiting of past lessons. We have been doing Conchas y Café for so long now that really Abraham and I have probably taught just about everything that we could think of at this point in terms of creative writing and the intriguing aspects of the art of poetry. But every time that we cover something, even if it has been covered before, there's always something new that we learn from each other. So hopefully today's lesson will maybe be a little reminder for some of you, and for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, we'll hopefully get to learn from each other something new, something different about poetry. Pero para empezar, como siempre, aquí les presento una cita que viene de Roberto Juarros. Roberto Juarros was a Argentine poet, born the 5th of October, 1925, and passed on the 31st of March in 1995. And Juarros, exactly. He's best known for his poetry collection called Vertical Poetry Volumes 1 through 14. Y aquí nuestro amigo Juarros wrote, or is quoted as saying, "No se trata de hablar, no se trata de callar, se trata de abrir algo entre la palabra y el silencio." And I translated it for us to say, it is not about speaking, it is not about being quiet. It is about opening something in between the word and silence. So, ¿cómo les parece la cita de hoy? What are your thoughts on this particular quote of the week?
Now, when I was a teenager, we used to use our hands and say some words sometimes, and we used to use our neck. You guys are too young for that. Maybe Miss Luce, she knows. We twist our heads and twist our necks, and they used to call it body language.
Mm-hmm.
But we would have some little word that would go with it sometimes, But we used to call it body language.
Yeah.
You need to show us, Miss Lois.
Girl, the neck don't work like it used to. Don't you remember? It was almost like Egyptians when they would use their heads and their arms.
Yeah.
That's how we would work our heads. We would,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I mean, speaking for myself and my family, we at least growing up, we used to use our lips. You point with your lips like, look at that guy,
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Well, even right now, when I meet some of my Hispanic friends, I give that East LA nod,
Mm-hmm.
But
Mhm.
they don't know me that way. But
Yeah.
because of my environment that I grew up in, that was like with homegirls acknowledgement, out of, I guess you could call it respect. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to explain.
No, I think I get it. It's like
Yeah.
The head nod, right? The full
Yeah.
body nod, the lean like a cholo nod.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was it. That was it.
I got you.
But today, like sometimes they put their fists together. Uh, in general, the people in general, like that's a sign of how you say greetings or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Just putting your knuckles together, something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Abraham raised his hand. What do you have to say, Abraham?
Well, I like how Eric is a little bit going into the direction I was gonna say, which is basically the way we speak, and especially when you see big speeches and you have the use of different pauses, meaning the silence and the speaking part, to create either impact or to create some type of tension,
Mhm.
So that's kind of gave me to me.
Yeah, I think that, because it is talking about not only speaking and not only being quiet, but, you know, the purpose of a pause. I think that that is maybe where Roberto Jarros was maybe trying to get readers to lean. It was perhaps more about the performance of language, the performance of poetry, because we can't really talk about writing without talking about the actual oral component of this. The sounds that we make in language, they are affected by intonation, they're affected by pauses, they're affected by a whole lot of other things, including body language. So that's, I think, maybe where Roberto Jarros was going with this. As Mojde says, it's about having impact, right, with the selective performance of it. Gia, see you raised your hand as well.
Yes. And I also wanted to say, because I noticed in a lot of my writing, even the word silence, I use the word silence a lot as like a theme, because it has a lot of power to it, and so I think not even in, like you said, the pauses or the undertones, but just the word itself has a power to it.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that. All words have their own sort of power, but perhaps silence has a greater power over other words. Maybe because of what it means, right? The connotations of silence. Yeah, thank you for your observation there, Gia.
Well, also,
Mhm.
in addition, I'm thinking as you speak, when someone is angry or someone is displeased and you trying to get their attention, they'll give you that silence. And like, I better, chill out for a minute. Or it could be the smack of a lip.
Uh-huh.
It's not a word and it's not quite silence, it's just in between. And
Right.
then you can, and then my mom, there are times when all she had to do was give you that look.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And you knew that you better tuck your tail and run somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good observation for sure. Gia, I see you raised your hand again.
Yes, I just wanted to say too that I think silence has maybe sometimes more, kind of to piggyback on what everybody was saying. Silence also tends to have a lot of subtext,
Mhm.
so there's a lot of subtext to it, maybe more so than some other words.
Yeah, that's very possible. Kind of like what Abraham is saying in the chat, there's a deadly silence and a peaceful silence, and they can carry so much in terms of the weight that they have when they're described, right? And I think in that way, if we're looking at our writing as the mode in which we're describing something like silence, we can infuse a lot of meaning and a lot of emotion into it, so that it isn't just about speaking and it's not just about being quiet. It's about observation, an observation of what that silence and what those words mean. So, yeah.
Well, being
Yeah.
romantic in your writing, and then she smiled at me from the corner of her mouth.
Ooh. There you go.
I'm just getting these things as you guys speak, because my mind is going.
Well, like like I've said before, a poet is gonna poet all the time. Um, and yeah, in the chat, I have Diana who wrote, I feel like silence can be stronger than words at times. For example, there are times when I appreciate sharing space with people in complete silence and just the intake of what's around. So yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah, I think this is definitely getting some thoughts going, and I appreciate it. And Abraham added, yeah, it's harder to find people you can share silence with than people you can chit chat with. And that's a fact. Yeah. Not to like drag out the concept too much more, but I do have a second little mini poem or mini quote from Roberto Jarros, which is the function of the word beyond the small misfortune and the small tenderness of naming this or that is an act of love, creating presence. So kind of going off of what I was saying before about, the way in which, the description of a silence can carry its own weight. It's according to Juarros, it's just as much about like the tenderness of naming something, and it's about kind of like the love that we have for whatever that thing is. But what are your thoughts? What else do you feel applies in this particular sense of?
Well, I like what Abraham said a few minutes ago, and it's very true for me. When I go over to my son and his wife's home, my daughter-in-law, they treat me with such, how do you say, just royalty. I don't have to do anything. And just, they're in the other part of the house, but just knowing that they're there, and then I can hear them laughing and talking. I mean, after what, 25 years of marriage, they're still, going strong. And then it's just the joy of just, I'm in my room, I have my own room, and it's just the joy of being at peace there. They don't have to come in, my daughter-in-law, she'll say, you sure you don't want a snack? You don't want a drink or something? And, and then she's off. But just being there in the peace and harmony of, how you say, tranquility, just, and we don't even talk to each other. But it's very nice. Yeah. So I like the way that Abraham expressed it.
Yeah, Abraham?
This one, it kind of gives a lot of credit to the class that we just created last time on reading words, because creating words it's basically giving this love to a concept and putting a name to it, because you have so much thought into it, and then you have to think, what do I name this? It's like when you're naming a kid or a pet. It's a hard thing to do, but it's out of love, and I like this concept.
Yeah. Let me read the quote for us one more time. And in Spanish, el oficio de la palabra, más allá de la pequeña miseria y la pequeña ternura de designar esto o aquello, es un acto de amor, crear presencia. The function of the word, beyond the small misfortune and the small tenderness of naming this or that, is an act of love, creating presence. To me, this speaks to kind of like putting thoughts or ideas into the world, right? It's an act of creation. If silence can be described, we're essentially creating the silence. If we go back to this one, there's something that exists between the word and silence. The word in terms of poetry can be, whatever it is that helps your reader kind of develop a concept for themselves. They may not necessarily understand what, let's say, love is, but if you concretely describe love, if you use the sounds that our mouth can make, our mouths can make particular sounds that sound like love. And therefore, your reader will have a better concept of it. The little limerick that Miss Lois was saying earlier about, something related to love, and, she smiled, the corner of her mouth smiled. Painting that picture is what will give your audience an opportunity to experience whatever it is that you're trying to get them to experience. So you're creating a presence through your, act of creating new experiences via poetry. Sometimes it's a hard thing, right? Sometimes it's a difficult thing to do because of the complexity of language. But when it comes down to it, you are masters of all of the sounds of poetry, And there's certain tools and certain techniques that we can obviously discuss when it comes to writing poetry and creating new work. And we'll discuss these a little bit more as we move on in today's lesson. But what I want everyone to kind of walk away with today is just the fact that language is universal. Even if we can't always understand each other, through our communications, the fact that we can in some way communicate our emotions, our experiences, using sounds, using body language, using different modes of speaking, of communicating, those are things that are what inherently make us human, what make us capable of, transcending any kind of barrier, whether it's a national barrier, false ethnic, racial barrier that we sometimes create amongst each other. Those things don't actually exist. They're things that we can easily overcome as long as we are sincere in our expressions. So, and yes, we definitely have a master of words with us today. Shout out to Eric for winning the contest last time. So let's talk about some of the ways in which we can replicate experiences through poetry. This one you may be familiar with, the concept of assonance, right? La asonancia es la repetición de vocales sin la repetición de consonantes, usado como alternativa para la rima en verso. Assonance is one of those things that I think a lot of people are very much capable of doing. But it is a specific sort of technique that you can use to create rhythm within your poetry. It's a repetition of vowels without the repetition of consonants. And as examples, I have provided here for you, the cake may take an hour to bake and I'm late. If you notice here, right, what makes this assonance is the fact that every time that the long A, that hey, a, cake, may, take, right, every use of it doesn't have the same consonant that follows it, right? In some cases, you have a different letter that follows the vowel to then create that long A sound. O por ejemplo, en español, entre el extraterrestre y alebrijes, a este se le fue la mente. So here the sort of short E, right? The E sound is what's repeated. And that's what makes this an example of assonance. Another one, even Stephen couldn't reason or keep from leaving. And if we go back to our lesson about the digraphs and the diphthongs, you'll notice here that E by itself makes the long E sound, same as in Stephen here, but also remember the digraphs, the EA, the EE, they make the same vowel sound. So those also will give you the same assonance kind of tool, right? That you can easily create in your poetry. Reason and keep, reason, keep, leaving. In Spanish, it's really going to be just the sounds of the vowels. So you don't have, like you do in English, the kind of diphthongs and digraphs that you would normally have. when producing assonance. Are there any questions so far about how assonance gets created? The main thing is just to remember assonance has to do with the vowels. So A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. It's all about those sounds, okay? Now, the opposite of assonance is consonance. Consonance o consonancia es la repetición de sonidos producidos por consonantes, particularmente al fin de una palabra en una oración o frase. And consonance, again, is about not just the consonant sounds, but it's a consonant sound that is reproduced at the end of a word within a sentence or phrase. So in order for consonants to work, you have to look at the ending of your words that you're using. In the example here, the black rock woke and spoke. So you have the k sound. And again, going back to our lesson about the digraphs and the diphthongs, in this case, you have the digraph of the CK, right? And that CK consonant sound just makes the simple k sound that can be repeated with other spellings, right? The KE with the silent E still produces the k sound. That's why this is considered consonants. Black, rock, woke, spoke. Same thing with the sort of combination of this one, right? Each one, teach one, even through rerun. So the n sound, the NE of one, plus the EN of even and the UN of run, right? That's going to be a form of consonance because it's the letter N, that N sound that is being reproduced. And you also have the added little bonus of the ch sound of each and teach. So you have consonants happening there as well. And then in English, because we have a lot of words that end in NG or ING, that always makes for an easy form of consonants, right? The ng sound. Exciting writing is enlightening. In Spanish, you'll probably see it a lot more than assonance, although they kind of blend in together. So en español, consonancia se reproduce típicamente al fin de cada palabra dentro de una frase o oración. Y como ven aquí, todo, dado y mandado hecho a un lado. La letra D, el D, es lo que reproduce consonancia en este caso. Y pues la letra S, como hay muchas palabras en español que terminan con la letra S, es muy fácil crear consonancia usando esa letra. And yeah, Abraham did one for us in the chat. No tengo dinero ni miedo, yo solo me defiendo. All right, so the O. And as a native Spanish speaker, for me, to be honest with you, I have a lot more fun when I write poetry in Spanish because of how often consonants and assonants kind of just happen within the language. But in English, you can definitely pull it off too. And a lot of times you can do it with the help of our last friend here, alliteration, right? And alliteration is the commencement of two or more shared stressed syllables or letters of a word group. All right, so this kind of combines a little bit of the assonance concept with a little bit of the consonance concept. But alliteration is always going to be at the very beginning of words. Alliteración se trata más de los sílabas, ¿verdad? Los sílabas que son estresadas y que empiezan una palabra. Here we have, rather than a little set of examples, we actually have two examples that are actually from my personal poetry. So for those who, sometimes request things like this, you have a small example of my own writing. Do I have a volunteer that would like to read for us some alliterative poetry? Ya sea en inglés o en español.
I can to do English.
Want to try the English? All right. Go ahead, Heidi, whenever you're ready.
Straw Dog by Louis Anthony Portugal. Looking naps, napping non nations. Roast leaf, lavender. Loosely lazy, longing of queries. Naps, no longer likes to me. Nothing never likes to nest noodles. Nonsense, Nancy's number, rose hair. No kiss, no odor, no laughing. Long day naps now and then. May collinsmen linger, many move with bias. Very move marked MS, maybe more. Missing me, marking my manner memory on the mistable malleable.
All right. Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate you reading it for us. We'll read it one more time after another volunteer reads the Spanish. So do I have a volunteer to read it in Spanish? I see a hand from San Juanita.
Extracto de Milagritos, Luis Antonio Pichardo. Mil agritos, coyunturas que curvan, acariciando cabellos, cantando, cuentos cotidianos, cuales cantos consonantes crearon. Perdón, crearon colores claros, cuyas cualidades confesaron que quedamos aquí entre clavados. Mil agritos.
Excellent. Thank you, San Juanita.
You're welcome.
So, thoughts. What do you notice about both pieces? Os. Is that what you think is the alliteration? Abraham?
The rhythm to me.
Yeah, that has a lot of O's.
Os.
Claros, clavados, quemados.
Yeah.
It has other ones, but those are the ones that I noticed first.
Well, to be clear, right? The cuentos cotidianos, right? So that would be consonants, right? We also have some alliteration happening and also assonance. So tenemos un poco de todo aquí. San Juanita?
I was actually going to say that because of when I was reading it, I kept saying, coyunturas que curvan, acariciando, cantando, cuentos, all that I can hear that, so consonancia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're going with the first one? Sorry.
No. You're good. You're good.
Well, that's what I hear, and it's all throughout the poem.
Yeah.
Aquí, clavados, confesaron, colores claros.
Mm-hmm.
I hear it all over in the second one.
Yeah.
So that's what I see. And I think the first, almost. Oh, I won't say anymore about the first one. I'll give somebody else a chance.
All right. But yeah, you're right, San Juanita. It is the k, right? The k sound of the C. Coyunturas que curvan, acariciando cabellos, cantando. Right. So it's the very deliberate k sound that the Q, U, and the C make in Spanish that I was going for in this particular section of this poem, because this is a much longer poem. So that's why it's an extracto. It's an excerpt from Milagritos. And in the English one, you're not wrong either. There, there is a lot of alliteration going on there. Anyone want to try and point out the alliteration happening in Stray Dog? Or anything that you notice specifically about the alliteration happening in Stray Dog?
Well, I'm not really, and I'm not embarrassed to say, but I'm not truly in full clarity that what I'm thinking is like dropping down to the second paragraph. they have the long, let's see, nesting, the never, the next,
Mhm.
and then where's the other one at? It was somewhere. Somewhere I saw it. I can't remember where. And then the other one was the SE, or was it the US? I can't remember because I had it all played up in my head,
Okay.
but I'm not quite clear on any of it, really, truly.
Okay.
Nesting, never, next.
Well, I mean, you're kind of
Yeah.
there, Miss Lois. You're kind of getting it. Let's see. San Juanita, you raised your hand again.
It's because just saw something and I have to share it.
Mhm.
I noticed that the first stanza is L,
Mhm.
the second one is the N,
Mhm.
and the last one you did the M.
Mhm.
Like a lot of M, merciless man, mingle, mainly move. It's like
Mhm.
every letter. And then is this part of like a big ABCD or you just happen to choose LMN? Because that's what it looks like.
Yep. I mean, that is exactly what it is. I just happened to start at the letter L, and then I went slightly out of order.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's normally the LMN, right? But instead I went with
Well, I guess I guess I saw it the other way.
yeah.
I saw it in order, yeah, but you're right. It's LMN.
Yeah.
But you did L and then all N y luego all M. That's interesting.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. So there.
Can I ask you a question, Luis?
Yeah, go ahead.
They don't have to rhyme. Like the example you gave us, the egg, cake, bake, that one did rhyme.
Yeah.
But they don't have to rhyme, right?
Well, that's the thing. They don't necessarily rhyme. It's more the fact that you have, in the case of assonance, you have these vowel sounds that are recurring, right? So it's the vowel A, the long A. Cake, may, take, an hour to bake, and I'm late. Right. So
Yeah.
it's the letter A, that sound that it makes, that is what's creating assonance, because it's a vowel. The opposite of a vowel is a consonant. So when you end your words and that sound of the consonant gets repeated at the end of your words, you're creating a rhythm that sounds like a rhyme, but it's not technically a rhyme, it's consonants.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Whereas alliteration is exactly what you were pointing out, right? Alliteration is when the first word or the first sound of a word, of a series of words, gets repeated. Whether it's a vowel or a consonant, it doesn't matter. It's the sound. So this is all about the sound of the language. Because if you notice, in Spanish, you have the letter C and you have the letter Q, the QU, which also make the K sound, right? So that's what makes it alliteration. The ing, as Diana points out, that is something that is a sort of like a side effect of consonants, in especially poetry that is active. So I like to use active verbs. I like to make them in the present moment. So a lot of times in English, it's going to end in ing, and that in itself creates a sense of consonance. But it's only consonance or assonance or alliteration if it all happens on the same line. So if, for example, locking was a word by itself, and then lips was the next word on the line, that would technically not be alliteration or assonance or consonance. It would just be, single word lines. What makes this alliteration is that it's two or more times that it's repeated. Same over here. It's two or more times that it's repeated. So it's very deliberate in the way that it's executed. And yeah, Eric definitely picked up on some of the specific phrases that are used in the poem, both poems, but specifically in Stray Dog, that are examples of how alliteration works.
Well, if I could cheat, I would use only the E's, she, he, be, key.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to do it. But
Yeah.
believe it or not, this is
No, I
your-
want to learn, but the
Yeah.
other letters, maybe it's because of my addiction or my dialect, but I can't get that sound in my ear to form the word.
Mm,
I have to hear what I'm saying,
yeah,
but the E is very easy.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
in the,
There's certain
like
sounds.
leaves, yeah.
There's certain sounds that might feel like they're easier to come up with in terms of repetitions. But once you get started, you really can't stop. You might move on to the next letter, and that's sort of what happened with Stray Dog. But it is actually much easier than.
Well, I guess A is not too bad. A, let me see, hap, nap, sap,
Mhm.
flap.
Yeah.
Flap him upside his head.
Yeah. But
Because
I
he took a
mean,
nap.
if it helps for all of you, we covered a lot of this already in the lesson on digraphs and diphthongs, right? So the sounds that we produce with our mouth, those are the things that we're really aiming for. Those are the things that we're sort of subconsciously focused on when we create poetry that is alliterative like this, or when we have lines that really use assonance or consonants in their construction. So let me read the poems to you one more time so you can hear how assonance, consonants, and alliteration function. More than anything, alliteration in Stray Dogs. Okay. And remember, alliteration is about the first sound of each word that is being pronounced. Locking lips, lapping long licks. Loose leaf lavender, leaves, lull, lazy, longing of licorice nips, no longer next to me. Nesting never next to, nasty noodles, nauseous nuance nabbing nose hair, noxious non-odor nullifying noonday naps now and then. Merciless men mingle, mainly moving mandibles, mangling movie-marked M&Ms, maybe more, missing me, marking my minor memory on their miserable melody. See? So it's all about that first sound that you hear in every letter. That's what alliteration is. Now, milagritos, a cambio, es un poco de todo, like I said before. This one is not only consonants and assonance and alliteration, it's all of them all working all at once, which is a lot of times easier in Spanish, to be honest with you. But allow me to read it for you so you can hear it all working together. Mil a gritos. Coyunturas que curvan, acariciando cabellos, cantando, cuentos cotidianos, cuales cantos consonantes crearon, colores claros, cuyos cualidades confesaron que quedamos aquí entreclavados, mil a gritos. Any questions? Any final observations? Anything you want to add before you practice for yourselves?
I just want to ask you, what is that word, gritos?
Gritos, that one?
Uh-huh.
So un grito is a scream or a yell.
Oh, okay.
But a milagro is a miracle. Now, a milagrito is a small miracle. So here I'm playing around with the concept of, 1,000 small, like, yells, right?
Uh-huh.
Thousand yells or 1,000 screams, but also little miracles, right?
Okay.
So this could be, if you read the entire poem, you'll sort of get it. But this is one of the moments where it's more about the small miracles, right?
Okay.
But yes, little miracles. All right, so we're going to practice right now. You have 2 examples of poems here that we've gone over. Hopefully you kind of get the concept. But what I'd like you to do right now is to pick a vocal sound, whether it's a vowel or a consonant. It's up to you. Could be A, E, I, O, U, or it could be K, D, T, S, P, L, whatever sound any of those letters in our alphabets make. Pick one and play with it. Repeat it to yourself. If it's the letter L, the L, just keep doing L, L, L until you start to form chains of words, right? And I want you to write these down. So you can use either the chat, definitely do it on a separate sheet of paper if you have it accessible to you. If you're on your laptop or some other mobile device, just write these down, begin writing them down. But see how long you can continue to repeat that sound. Don't focus too much at this time on, doing it at the beginning or the middle or the end of the word. Just try and focus on the sound that you want to have repeated. Can I write an example? Sure. So, just because I like the letter L, being as it's the initial of my first name, let's go with
Give me 2-word example. I'm serious.
All right. So there it is. In the chat, I just wrote, Luis likes L lost in lollipops lowered in licorice. So the letter L is where I was trying to really focus my sonic attention, right? The sound of the letter L and that vocal tone, that's an alliterative line. You can pick something else and it doesn't have to be alliteration, but if it helps, you can start with that. So again, pick any vocal sound, whether it's the sound of a consonant or a vowel, and just begin repeating it. If it's the letter S, have as many words as you can with the letter S in it that make the S sound, with a very pronounced S sound. It's a good example, Abraham. Zorro sleeps seeking clouds so distant. So síganle. Escoge un sonido oral, sea consonante o vocal, y juega con él. Repítelo. Empieza a formar cadenas de palabras que usan el sonido las cuantas veces que puedas.
If we run out of words with using one letter, we can start another list.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, you can always take a page out of my book.
Okay.
It's like you started a little story there, Heidi. A small rabbit, white, 2 ears standing up like eating radish, like eating vegetables, bounces so cute. Gia wrote, girls giggling gloriously glowing until the sound is gone. Nice. The G sound. I like it, Diana. Mr. Cucumber seeks coupons. I like it. You got the
fancy. Show off. I don't care.
You got both the S of the S and the K of the C. River has kangaroos kick, cake, coursing, crying, calling, making mocha mickles, marking miracle scan. Kangaroos, 6 sickles, on cycles, krill, coconuts kill. Croconuts, crocuses, can't hark, hackles, or hickey shocus. Or hickeys, hocus, or focus, cash pocus, back nocus. Some spaces missing. Okay.
No fair using Google.
Well, I'm not going to say that Google isn't allowed, but if you can do this without Google, many props. Sprinkle, spackle, speckle, spitting, spotting, spoons. That's a great one, Eric.
I like my list.
All right. Let's hear it, Miss Lois.
It's not a competition, Lois, but I'm winning.
Muy bien.
Whenever you're ready, Miss Lois, let's hear it.
Oh, we're ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I hope I'm on the right track. My first list is should, she, shy, shine, shed, shade, skin. What is this? I can't read it. Show, shot, shown.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then the other one is my A's. Hey, 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 lay, they, say, may.
Okay. Okay.
And then my other one is this. I don't, well, anyway, I'll read it. Click, pick, nick, lick, and I don't say the other one. Okay, that's it. Praise the Lord.
Okay. All right. I like the sh sound you got going on there.
Yeah, I could have put shoe and
Yeah.
but I was just trying to get make some other letters. I
Mhm.
didn't want to just stick with the SH.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's, I think, one of the ways in which you can start to form things like, in Spanish, we call them trabalenguas. In English, we might call them tongue twisters.
Tongue
If you
twister.
think of something like Peter Piper, right?
Pick the peck of peppers.
Exactly.
Pick the peck of
So
peppers.
there you have alliteration happening.
Yeah.
So if that helps, Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. That's alliteration. That is the letter P, the P sound,
Uh-huh.
right? That hard P. That's what alliteration is, right? So if you were to use your sh sounds, she should shine, showering all the I can't think of
Well, we did the one that she picked seashells by the sea.
yeah.
Yeah, that one. The
She picked
seashore.
seashells by the seashore. All right.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Don't try to get me to do that one fast because that one's hard. The point is still the same, right? The point
It is. Yeah.
is that you are now beginning to manipulate sound, right? And what was Roberto Juarez saying earlier? There's something that happens between word and silence. There is something that we can do in terms of our manipulation of sound and our ability to kind of create a presence using the sounds of words. That's how we're then able to communicate ideas in poetry that maybe most people don't have a chance to experience. Let's see, roots in the well, we have a few other ones that I didn't get to read, so let me scroll back up. I do have to admit that I really enjoyed reading reading that one out loud. The letter S is always a nice one, but Miss Luce's gua is a really good one, and I really appreciate that you did this one in Spanish, Miss Luz. El guajolote de Huehuetango, Guatemala, come aguacate, pero primero le saca el hueso y de último toma agua. Qué bueno.
Very good.
Yeah,
Read it in English.
yeah. And
That was lots of fun, by the way.
yeah, the w sound. Which I love the fact that you took advantage of the multiple ways in which that sound can be written. Again, it's about the sound, not so much about the way that it's spelled. So we're really focused on sound here. And then Diana wrote, Armageddon artist has an article articulating armory. Ooh, that's a good one. And River added for us also, dueños da dolores de danas, descubrir deseos. Oof, that's a good one. And then Roots wrote, light that lasts lifetime, love lures past lust. Nice, nice.
Ah.
And then Gia wrote, dawn dreams deeply, draining the darkness of the night. Ooh, that's a good one. Starting to get poetic with these. I like it. And then San Juanita wrote, solía salir solamente sin sol, sentía celos del
Señor.
Señor, siempre sentado sin señal en su celular.
It's not poetic at all.
No, what are you talking about? That's
No, I don't think so.
What?
Sounds like a grouchy man just, I don't know.
But again, you're creating the sound.
Yeah.
That sound manipulation, that sound repetition is what's giving us this completely different experience. Even if the words themselves are just talking about a grumpy man who used to like to sit outside when there was no light, it's still a very poetic way of expressing that experience, right? It's in a way that we don't normally get to experience it. So that makes it just inherently poetic. And then Mojde added, peeking, peeling peas. Sometimes your alliterations don't necessarily have to make sense to get started. But the beauty of you doing this exercise right now is that now you have a whole set of words that you can turn around and use as part of a poem. I have here something that I hope inspires you, right? And I don't want us to finish the lesson early. I do want to give you a little bit of time to begin taking this to the next step. But consider what Jose Emilio Pacheco said about poetry. One day, while you read, you discovered that language says exactly what was most hidden in you. That experience is called poetry. Nuestro amigo José Emilio Pacheco, un ensayista, poeta y novelista mexicano, dijo, un día, mientras leías, descubriste que las palabras dicen exactamente lo que estaba más oculto en tu interior. A esa experiencia se le llama poesía. So we're going to sort of marinate on this. And what I'd like you to do next is I'd like you to take that little list of words that you created right now and begin sculpting it. Think of yourselves as the poets and artists that you are, and begin playing around with those sounds and turn it into something that expresses an experience that you hope to express, right? Whether it was something that was hidden in you or it's something that you want people to be aware of. Begin actually practicing some of these concepts in your poetry. Allow your audience to experience what poetry can be. Mojde, for example, you have the words peeking, peeling, and peas. See what you can do with that. See what you can add to those to continue the P sound, right? The P, and take it to the next level, right? Take it to the next phase. Miss Lois, you had an excellent set of words that start with the sound sh. Take those, form sentences, form lines, form a short little stanza of something that expresses an experience called poetry. So I'm going to leave this up on our screen for the time being. And I'm going to give you about, say, 5 minutes or so to have fun with this, right? Begin playing with these sounds that you've been exploring so far. And we'll reconvene momentarily. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that a little bit of Café Tacuba's Chilanga Banda kind of helped, at least to reinforce a little bit the use of alliteration and consonants. I know we have at least one in the chat. You weren't required to write it in the chat, by the way, but Abraham, would you like to share with us what you wrote?
Oh, do I have to read it? Hold on, let me see what it is. Okay, sorrow sleeps, seeking clouds so distant, serpents of light, sounding savagely loud. Sorrow sends them a sentimental plea. Sense is not sentiment. Serpents understand. Sorry, sorrow, sleep. Time is up.
Excellent. Good job. I like how Abraham used not only the S sound, but also a little bit of the L sound in that, as alliteration. So yeah, good job, man. Do we have anyone else who's maybe interested in sharing what they have so far? Doesn't have to
I'll
be.
read mine.
All right.
Somebody else? Yeah.
Go ahead, Miss Lois.
But I only use the SH. I mean, you know, that sound. Should I share my inner self, revealing the shining glow of my spirit man, or play shy? The mirror reveals she is beautiful, shining soft skin, a shade of dark chocolate, feet shod with sandals.
Nice, nice. Yeah, you got a little bit of that alliteration going there. I like it. I like it.
Hey.
What was that line? Sharing chocolate? Is that what it was? There was one
Well,
that had chocolate.
She had let me see, beautiful, shining, soft skin, shade of dark chocolate.
Okay. Shade of dark chocolate. I like
Yeah.
it. And I also like how the sh and the ch are so close to each other in terms of the sound that they still come across as a
Yeah.
little bit of alliteration there. So yeah, good job, Miss
Sneaky.
Lewis.
Sneaky.
Yeah. So just as a reminder for everyone though, for it to count, it has to be repeated within the same line 2 or more times. So
Oh, the same line.
yeah. So like
Oh, okay.
shade of dark chocolate, if that's all on the same line, shade and chocolate, then it counts. Although I would try and fit maybe one more.
Well, I wrote in pen, so this is like, yeah, it would, I could have had 2 more lines.
There you go.
I
Yeah,
just
like
wrote big, so I don't have my light on. It looks like I do, but I don't. I'm in the dark here.
Okay. Well, just like as like a little example of a word that you could potentially use in there, you could say shade of sumptuous chocolate.
Yeah, I can't even say it. Yeah.
Sumptuous could be an extra way to get that sh sound in there.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. Do we have another volunteer that'd like to read it out loud for us?
This is fun.
I'm
Once
good.
I'm catching on. Yeah.
All right. Gia.
Sitting ovation, Miss Lois. Very good.
Thank you, darling. I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you. It's a Clipper shirt.
It's okay. I'm a ram.
Dawn dreams deeply, draining the darkness of the night. Pink light paints picture perfect pursed lips that lie softly next to me, while white sheets sculpt the curve of your bones, barely visible beneath my longing gaze.
Oh.
Get you a little tingly.
I like it.
Didn't know you had that in you.
I got a lot of poems like that.
Right on. Yeah. No, I like also the fact that you used multiple letter sounds, right? Multiple ways in which you could approach the alliteration. And it sounded a little bit like you had some assonance happening as well in some of the lines. So excellent job. Thank you, Gia. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
San Juanita, I see you raised your hand.
I actually have a question.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm like I'm not a perfectionist. I don't know what's happening to me right now, but I don't want to include, like, for example, I'm writing se sentaba seguro y sereno. Can I include the little words that don't begin with the S? Like, because I kind of feel like, por ejemplo, ese señor solía soñar solo. And I like it like that because of course, the S doesn't start with the S. It doesn't have to start with the S, does it? It's just a sound.
Just the
and
sound.
I can throw words that don't have the S sound, right? Por ejemplo, y esperaba paciente. The P, is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes you have to incorporate other words in order to have just grammar function within your.
It's because I like what you did.
Yeah. So
I mean,
that
that stray
does work.
dog.
Yeah. Yeah. But and yes, that is allowable. That is allowed in your poetry. Again, in order for it to be considered assonance, consonance, or alliteration, it has to happen at least 2 times within the same line of poetry. So if you were to say, se paseaba pacientemente, right? All in one particular line, you have that double P, paseaba pacientemente. You have what's going to be considered alliteration, and you also will have the nice assonant sound of the pacientemente.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Let's see what comes out.
all right. Let's see, Diana, you wrote something in the chat. Would you like to read it out loud for us so you can maybe hear it out loud?
Sure. Armageddon artist cultivates an article articulating armory. As he hesitates, he meditates, achieving greatness.
Yeah. You got it. You got the assonant. Well, so you got 2 things happening, right? You have the alliteration of the A sound, of the R, technically. Armageddon artist, article articulating armory. So you have the R sound. And on top of that, you then move from the R to the he sound. So the he hesitates, he meditates. So you have that E and the H kind of happening there a few times. So yeah, you're actually doing a really good job of blending in assonance along with alliteration into your little piece that you shared there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job. Mojde, would you like to read out loud what you posted in the chat? Believe me, this is for everyone. It really helps if you actually pronounce it out loud. You're going to have a better sense of whether or not your alliteration, your assonance, or your consonants are working. So.
And papa pass papaya peel tea.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Mojde. And you definitely have the p sound happening a lot, right? So papa passed papaya peel tea. And if you were to say move on to maybe another letter in the next line, then that could continue to build onto this little poem that you've started. Roots, would you like to share out loud what you wrote in the chat?
Let me see. So I wrote, listening to the lively leaves sing legendary lullabies. Lush lavender skies lie limitless, lovely lunar lyrics.
Excellent. So reading it out loud, I'm sure you were able to hear how the repetition of the L sound, the L, is definitely in that particular piece. But yeah, great job. Thank you, Roots. Kids' book is on the way. Yeah, there you go. Ms. Luz, you added something in the chat. Would you like to read it out loud for us?
There's more to it. I just having trouble spelling some of these words. So I'll just read what I have on my notebook.
Yeah.
Todos esos andan enhuelgados. Dicen que si huele mal, hay muerto. A mí me vale que me den a mí el hueso.
Nice. Yeah, I hear the w sound again happening a lot.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
En Guatemala se usa mucho el w.
Yeah. And of course, in Mexico, we have a lot of words with the ch. So, as you might have heard in the Chilanga Banda song.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. Well, yeah, thank you, Ms. Luz. And then let's see you do this one, Abraham.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Pepe pica papas con un pico, pica papas, Pepe pecas, pica, something like that. Close enough.
Oh, man, that's a hard one. Pepe pecas pica papas con un pico pica papas, Pepe pecas. Si Pepe pecas pica papas con un pico, ¿dónde está el pico con que Pepe pecas pica papas?
Sí,
is
es un
that Peter Piper?
trabalenguas.
Is that Peter Piper?
Not
Yes,
exactly Peter Piper.
it's in English. I think they have a kind of translation.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tongue twister in Spanish.
okay.
You know,
There you go.
it's trabalenguas in Spanish is what we call them. Tongue.
Yeah, I was trying to get the word for it in English. Nice.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like a little mini story. Pepe Pecas is the name of the character, and it says that he picks potatoes with a pick, as in like
Abraham, did you get mine in the chat?
we did.
You want me to read it?
In a moment. I was in the middle of talking.
Okay.
Let me finish translating the little tongue twister that Abraham shared. So the first line is Pepe Pecas, the character, picks potatoes with a pickaxe. With a pickaxe, potatoes are picked by Pepe Pecas.
Oh.
If Pepe Pecas picks potatoes with a pickaxe, where is the pickaxe that belongs to Pepe Pecas? Where is the pickaxe? Where is the pickaxe that Pepe Pecas uses to pick potatoes? There you go. I think that's
the boss took it from him because he messed up the potatoes. Trying to pick them with the pickaxe.
Yeah.
And pecas, Luis, pecas means how do you call those?
Freckles. Yeah.
Freckles. There you go.
Yeah.
Pepe Freckles.
Yeah. So technically his name is Pepe Freckles. But yeah, so as you can see, there are examples in nearly every language, if not all languages, of tongue twisters, because tongue twisters are a really excellent example of how alliteration can be used to create rhythms. None of the words in that particular tongue twister, or in, like, say, Peter Piper, none of them actually rhyme. It's not the words themselves that are rhyming, it's the sounds that are being produced through alliteration that cause a rhythm. So I hope that kind of helps clarify the function of alliteration. And then Elena, could we have you read for us what you wrote in the chat now?
Yes. It says, I would like to say a few words about the writing and what it means to me. To me, personal, I like reading books and doing the summer reading challenge.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Elena. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So do we have any final questions as we go back to our handout here, or final observations that anybody would want to share? I do want to, encourage you all to really think about this particular quote, like I said, from Jose Emilio Pacheco, because I think that it's a great way for us to consider our role as poets, as artists who are creating new works within whatever language we speak, and within the multitude of ways in which we can express ourselves. One day someone might pick up your poetry and experience something that was always within them, but they never had the words to articulate. So, really consider all of the things that you've learned over the last several weeks in our workshop series here. I'm very happy to share the little bit of knowledge that I have in creative writing with you, and I'm very happy to receive the knowledge that you carry in you as well, because it just helps us become better teachers. Both on behalf of both Abraham and myself, we thank you. We thank you for joining us. And your final homework assignment of the series is basically what you were already doing. So use any combination of assonance, consonance, and alliteration to create a presence through poetry. Because again, that's what we're ultimately doing. We're giving whatever it is that we want to give presence to, we're giving it that existence in our work. So su tarea por última vez durante esta serie de clases es usar cualquier combinación de asonancia, consonancia y aliteración para crear una presencia a través de poesía. So I leave you with those final thoughts, those final remarks. And of course, if you have any questions before we log out for tonight, please feel free to let me know. And again, your deadline for turning in your final writing to be considered for the next issue of Conchas y Café zine is June 27th. A partir del 27 de junio ya no vamos a tomar ya no vamos a aceptar entregas de trabajo. Así que chop chop, as Abraham likes to say, chop chop.
Well, thank you and good night to everyone. Have a pleasant weekend and the rest of the week. And all the good essence of joy, peace, and happiness. And what else? And love. Remember Soul Train?
Love, peace, and soul.
Oh yeah.
I love how Lois is great. It's already the weekend. I like it. I want to have that kind of fate.
Yes.
All right, brother Abraham. We should sing about you in the school. Remember the song? Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? Remember that one?
Oh, that sounds vaguely familiar. I think we were learning that when I was in kindergarten, and I still
Brother
did.
Abraham, yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you to those of you sharing in the chat. You guys made this class very much possible. And just again, a little reminder that next week we still have our last workshopping session. So those of you who fully enrolled in the actual series, you have the added benefit of having one more week of workshopping your work. So make sure you send us your work to those who are in assigned cohorts. Send it to the people in your cohort, or at the bare minimum, send it to either me or Abraham, so that we can pass it on to the rest of the people in your cohort. And in about 2 weeks.
One last question.
Yes.
When are we getting our book?
Thank you, Louise. Bye.
Our last book.
So issue number 2 will be coming out towards the end of this month. I'm expecting to receive it relatively soon.
Wait, so the book is gonna be next month?
Towards the end of the month, yes.
Oh my gosh! That's the day before after my birthday.
All right, well, I'm glad you're excited, Elena. But yes, so issue number 2 of Conchas y Café zine, I will mail them off to those of you who submitted last time. And then for issue number 3, the one that we are wrapping up at this moment, on language, that one will likely be released towards the end of July, early August. So
that's early.
Yeah, so you'll be receiving that one in the mail sometime around August. And and we will have our typical release parties. We're going to try and do some sort of like maybe a combined one. If it ends up working out that way, we'll still figure out the release party details. But in the meantime,
we're doing a party.
but in the meantime, feel free to watch the showcase of issue number 1's poets on our YouTube channel, featuring Miss Luz, Dr. Rosie, and also Elena. So, make sure you check that out on our YouTube channel. And of course, this particular lesson will go up on YouTube tomorrow. So at some point tomorrow. And
good night.
Have a good night, everyone. With that, I think we'll end our session. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week and have a lot of fun writing alliterative poetry.
Adios.
Hasta luego.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.